So more and more over the last few years, the release of the actual NFL schedule release day, has become a huge event in the NFL offseason. Naturally, there's always going to be a whole lot of intrigue when it comes to, when teams are going to be playing, travel, all that kind of thing. But now it's become a real kind of big social media event for all these teams doing very creative posts in terms of how their schedule is going to play out. Some of the stuff is pretty funny. The big thing this year was seeing how teams would address the whole Patriots Mike Vrabel situation. But anyways, first and foremost is always going to be, when teams are actually going to be playing. We obviously know with how NFL schedules work, what teams are going to be playing, the matchups based on seeding and just how the whole rotating every 4 year schedule kind of thing. But when teams are going to be playing is very important. And it was the typical stuff you could expect for the whole kind of social media stuff. Chargers had some interesting stuff with their whole kind of video game theme and how they actually did poke fun at the Vrabel Rossini situation. But yeah, it was your typical thing with everyone, having fun with the schedule release and all that. But the big thing that stood out to me about this schedule release is how the NFL has absolutely said F you to the NBA in terms of taking hold of Christmas Day. Traditionally, during my initial years of watching sports, Christmas Day was always an NBA day where it was a showcase for the NBA. And the only time the NFL would put out actual games was when Christmas fell on a traditional football day. So obviously Sunday, Monday Night Football. I think they used to do Thursday night games. I don't know for sure, but I definitely remember Monday night games happening in the past. Well, that's changed in recent years where the NFL said, wait a minute, what are we doing? We're going to put a monopoly on Christmas Day as well. Over the last few years. This year is no exception, and the lineup for Christmas Day games just had me go, wow. They put some big-time matchups that are going to be big trouble for the NBA to compete ratings-wise. For your 1 p.m., this is Eastern time, 1 p.m. Eastern game, you have Packers, Bears in Chicago. Then again at 4:30, you got Bills versus the Broncos, playoff rematch right there. Actually, those first two are playoff rematches. And actually, all three are playoff rematches because then your nighttime game, Rams at Seahawks. I mean, those are three spectacular games right there. All of them playoff matchups, rematches from last year. All three of those were great games. These are just great matchups of teams that are expected to be good. And all I could think is that, wow, there ain't nothing the NBA can put out to compete with that. Because if everyone stays healthy for those teams, those are going to be some fantastic matchups. Of course, the thing with these kind of games whenever they schedule, you got to hope everyone stays healthy, because with last year's Christmas Day games, they had a nice looking slate of games that were absolutely ruined because whether teams were just injured or teams just didn't end up being as good as people thought they would be. Because initially last year, the 2025 Christmas Day triple header, you would have thought this would have been a great matchup of teams too, but these were all, for the most part, none of them good games. Last year, your 1 p.m. game, Cowboys versus Commanders. Then you had, we'll talk about Cowboys Commanders. That game got ruined because the Cowboys were their typical mediocre selves. Commanders, Jaden McDaniels got injured, and that team wasn't doing anything throughout the year. Your second game, Lions, Vikings. Vikings were going to hold their whole McCarthy thing, not very good, and the Lions they weren't terrible last year, but mediocre season, so that game wasn't much. And then Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs. Who would have thought the Chiefs would have had as miserable a season as they did, and by that time, Mahomes had already been injured. So those were three games that on paper looked like they were going to be really good, but they ended up not being good. Now, with this Christmas Day triple header, the only thing I really don't like, your first two games are going to be on Netflix. Your final game is going to be on Fox Sports, so that's nice. But the only thing I really don't like about the NFL now is like, man, you are going through all these different streaming services just to watch games. The streaming era, I guess there's no point in complaining because it ain't going away. But because you got to have now Netflix to watch games, your traditional local TV channels and NBC, Fox Sports, what's another one, CBS, all that. But fine, we were all used to that. But again, Netflix, Peacock, Prime Video, this stuff is just crazy. If they ever add any more streaming services to this, I'm gonna lose my mind. The only one of these I don't have right now is Peacock. Thankfully, I do have Netflix and Prime Video because I do use them for other stuff. But all this streaming stuff, when it comes to basketball and football, I am not all for that. So that's a great looking matchup of games right there if everyone stays healthy. The other big thing to come out from the schedule release yesterday is these international games are just insane. It used to be they would just play games in London a few times and maybe Mexico City. Now they got games all over the damn place. You got your first week 1, you got 49ers Rams in frickin' Australia. Are you kidding me? That is a crazy travel schedule both teams gotta be on for that kind of plane ride. Thankfully, they're both, California teams, so it's not as far as if they were coming from like the East Coast, but still, man. You got your typical amount of England games that they're gonna play. You got a game that's going to be in Paris, Steelers versus Saints. Another game in Spain. You got Bengals, Falcons. Another game in Germany that they've done for a few years. You got Patriots, Lions for that one. And then it looks like just one in Mexico City, Vikings, Niners, which that's not too bad when it comes to travel. But these international games, the reason it's fun for NFL fans just because you wake up in the morning, like me being here in California, you wake up at 6 a.m. or whatever, and there's already football going specifically for your London games. I don't know how it's going to work out for your Australia games. It says the one for Australia is going to be 8:35 p.m. Eastern time, and it should be noted that's on Netflix. So I guess over here that'd be 5:30 p.m. Cool, I guess, but some of these games, this travel schedule is pretty much insane. But the NFL schedule is really something else, between how they've really kind of booted the NBA out of their traditional Christmas slate and these international games. Pretty insane. And of course, like I said, the whole social media stuff going on when it comes to every team getting super creative with their social media posts. To me, I don't really care too much about that. It's pretty insane that they go through all these efforts just to have something where you can just read the schedule and that's just fine. But there you go with a reaction to the NFL release schedule, just sort of the craziness and everything going on. If you made it to the end of this particular video, thank you for watching.